As you know, student debt is a huge burden for many young people across Canada. An average $28,000 per person when we're looking at that kind of debt, and it has everything to do with the rise in tuition fees across this country. Many countries in the world around the world have free tuition. Some that are not as wealthy as that. What do you think?
I think it's a fantastic step forward. It's where we need to go. The question for me right now is, what is the cost? How do we implement it with provincial jurisdictions? Right now, under the federal government, what we can do is we can end the crushing levels of interest on student debt, because it's unconscionable that Bombardier gets interest-free loans and students don't. So I'd like to ask you, Niki, you've said it's free tuition. What's the plan and what's the cost?
Well, thankfully, there are people that have done significant work on this front. I want to acknowledge the work of the CFS and the CCPA, who have proposed reinstating federal funding to the tune of $3.8 billion. We just saw an increased military spending to $13 billion. So I see taking away part of that right off the bat as a possibility. But I think it is about pragmatism to talk about free tuition. 70% of jobs today require a post-secondary education. We can't afford to indebt generations of people. Don't you agree that's pragmatic?
I totally agree it's pragmatic, and we need to move there. This is a fundamental. The crushing levels of debt are unsustainable. You've thrown out a figure of $3.8 billion. I don't think that that's getting us all the way. You said you'll take it from the military. I'm open to that idea as well. But what we need to do is say, what are we going to do in the meantime in dealing with provincial jurisdictions, some of which are universities that may crank up the debt or costs? So I would like to hear more from you in terms of exactly how do we implement this, because I don't want to give false.
18 industrialized countries have free tuition. Why do you feel it's not pragmatic?
Oh, Peter, you've told us that we will get free tuition, but you've not told us the cost. When I said there's pragmatic and aspirational, I don't know, my colleagues seem to think that aspirational means negative. It doesn't. Aspirational is something I work towards. But if I'm going to be aspirational, I want to not give false hope. So give me the numbers, Peter.
The figures are already rolled out by the CFS, less than $10 billion if we have the federal government actually put aside things that they already pay for. For example, the federal government has post-secondary education tuition credits that go above all to wealthy families. That's $2.5 billion sources in. We're talking about $10 billion. Is that something that would then have you say, this is pragmatic, I support it?
Well, this is great. This is the first time, Peter, you've given me a number. So you move slightly off from the aspiration to the more pragmatic. And that's what the question about these debates are. We agree on the crushing level of student debt. It was Justin Trudeau who was aspirational in the last election and promised Canadians the moon and had no plan to deliver. So I learned from that. If I'm going to make a promise, we're going to have it costed out. So now you've given me a number. We will look at this. I think we will continue in other debates, and it's going to be a good, healthy discussion.